a friend of mine said, when I was at a meeting in Beijing, he said the Beijing is very tense. My reply to him was, since when was the imperial capital not tense? But this is China. And this drama we cannot affect. And it's very difficult for individual Chinese to affect that drama.
Could I just tag on to that question? So you think with the continuation of collective leadership at the very top, this fight against corruption would not have succeeded?
No, if there were factions like you had in the earlier period, you can never fight corruption because each would favor its own loyalists. And you can never take away corruption from Chinese society because it's embedded in Confucian relationships. From Qing dynasty to Han dynasty, the great change was the idea of Li. Li as in Li Mao as in Li Wu. Li. Ritual, behavior, to organize large numbers. So during the Tang dynasty, they lost it, and then Han Yi came around and said, no, stop this religious nonsense, worshipping Buddha bones and so on. Go back to Confucius. Song dynasty, again, go back to Confucius. And today in China, they're going back to Confucius because it's such a vast country. The idea that you have a constitutional republic where the emperor can be questioned, can be litigated. You cannot run Chinese society like that. Just as you cannot run Western society like China. So when the Chinese people say, look at the West today, look at their parliaments, they are abusing one another, how can it work? I think this is a long tradition going back to the days of the Roman Republic, of Cicero, of Catiline. This has always been the West. The British Parliament. Why do they have a sergeant at arms? Why is it before you pass a bill, the doors are locked, bolted? Because sometime in the past, people broke in as votes were taken to influence the vote. The sergeant at arms carried today a ceremonial mace. It was once a weapon to bludgeon you if you interfere in proceedings. So each of us is a prisoner of our own history. You can't change Islamic society and say, look, depart from the Quran. You will fail. The West will be the West and the East will be the East. Will they meet? Yes, they will meet. And in some ways, they meet in America. As a meta system, which was the original liberal idea. But today, the liberal idea has become doctrinaire, has become ideological. But if we can recover that liberal idea of accepting differences and finding commonalities in our differences, then we'll have a working meta system which can bring hope to the world.
A working meta system. Yes. On the fourth row there.
Thank you so much for I don't know if this is working or not. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming and speaking to us while you're here. You mentioned that there are certain behaviors that can't be changed in Chinese society. You also talked about how maybe we shouldn't be in the business of trying to change China. However, there's certain behaviors that China does that many Americans would perceive as deal breakers, backstabbing potentially. Theft of intellectual property, things like the unequal desire to hack us and embed future solutions that may destroy our infrastructure. So if you were America, how would you approach these behaviors? Would you try to change them, or would you try to somehow maneuver around them? Thank you.
Intellectual property is a problem which resolves itself because China has become a major producer of intellectual property in the world. And it's become in China's interest to protect intellectual property. And it's improved a lot from previous years. At the beginning, of course, they will copy, they will make do, but which all developing countries do. It was not surprising. I remember when I was Minister for Information and the Arts, and Disney figures were being parroted in China. When I visited Disney, I said, look, well, they're building your future market. And indeed it did, because now Disney is able to exact full royalties because of intellectual property protection in China itself. So it's improved a lot. It's improved a lot. I think it's a receding problem. It's not a growing problem. The other issue of, I think what you're suggesting is intelligence gathering through embedded devices, the internet, and so on. I think all countries do that. Probably the US more than any other country. It's a spy versus spy game. I mean, in a small way, when I was in the Singapore Armed Forces, I had some understanding of this game. It will never go away for as long as we have nation states. It can be managed. It should never get out of hand. If we allow in any country for intelligence to drive policy, you have a problem. You take, say, 5G. The US took a position to kill Huawei. In the latest Economist, they wrote a long piece on Huawei, how the US has failed to kill Huawei, and has in fact made it stronger. Well, if you say, I want to deny the Chinese a capability to prevent me from doing what I've always done, which is to access everybody's system, then I'm denying Western society also. So today, 5G in the US and Europe is way below 5G in China. So real industry is being affected. When intelligence drives policy, policy is suboptimal. But policy cannot ignore intelligence consideration. So I was in the Army, I was in the Air Force, I was in the Defense Ministry. Then I went over to become Minister for Trade and Industry. I went over to Foreign Affairs. So I see from both sides. You have to strike a balance between your capabilities and your immunological system. If you have an overwrought immunological system, in the end, you hurt yourself. But this is the phase the West is going through.
Thank you. Clearly, it's such a clear way of doing government work in these very challenging times, where you have information, false, fake, intelligence, secret, and it's very difficult to work with all of that and make this policy decisions that is in your self-interest, sensible, but also promotes a situation where it's not just your interest, but the interest of the larger cause beyond you. And I think, George, your many years, over 20 decades in public service has been exactly that. And we have so much, the current generation of leadership has so much to learn from you. I've learned a great deal reading your book, listening to you. I'm sure we all did. So thank you for being here with us. And now